Okay, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the proceedings of the Grand Rapids Public Schools Board of Education. Today is Monday, August 5th. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Reverend Matias, can we please take the roll?
Dr. Flores is not here. Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis.
Yes, here.
Reverend Matias is present. Mr. Ross.
Here.
Ms. Shotke.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Present.
Dr. Baker.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
President Grant.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. So I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Next, we have celebrations.
Madam President and members of the board, I would like to ask Mr. Kurt Johnson to come forward to discuss spring athletics accomplishments. Mr. Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam President Grant and Superintendent Dr. Gorman and other distinguished board members. It gives me great pleasure. I know the countdown has begun, but before we count down, we would like to pick up where we left off from last spring, where you were shared with some of the highlights of the winter accomplishments, and we didn't get a chance to do the spring because the school year ended really soon, and some of those things were still in session. But we would love for you to hear what our students accomplished over the spring season. And so with me today, I have the athletic directors from Ottawa Hills, Marcus Harris, as well as Justin Walker from Union High School, who will come up and share what our wonderful students had did this past spring that will lead us into an exciting fall that we're preparing for.
Good evening, President Grant, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Gorman. Thanks for having us again today. Like Mr. Johnson had mentioned, we were here back in early May to talk about some of our accomplishments in the wintertime, and I'm going to share with you some of our spring, also going into the summer at Ottawa Hills High School. In the spring, we had 9 all-conference student athletes in the OK White Conference. We had an increase in girls' soccer participation. We went up to 23 girls, which is good. Track and field team had 6 student athletes qualified for the state finals. 4 student athletes that made it to the state finals were all state in track and field. We finished in the top 8 for the 4x100 meters. Mackenzie Powell was the champion in the OK White 300-meter hurdles. She's also our current record holder. Her freshman year, she broke the record her first year running the event, so she's doing pretty good. She also, on the AAU circuit going into the summer, was the district and regional champion. Naomi Robinson and Mackenzie Powell both recently qualified and competed in the AAU Nationals Junior Olympics in North Carolina. Actually, I think they're coming back today, so they've been down there for about a week or so. The track team also had 3 records broken this year in the 1,500 meters, 3,200 meters, and also the pole vault, all girls. Our softball team enjoyed doing various community service projects and volunteering with the Kids Food Basket and also the Special Olympics. Then overall this year, we had 5 student athletes that received scholarships to continue playing at the collegiate level. Then also we had one of our boys swimmers, Caleb Heckman recently, a diver on the swim team, qualified for the NISCA Nationals, the National Interscholastic Swim Coaches Association, which is a national event, and he also qualified to be All-American. So he's the first All-American swimmer in Ottawa Hills history. So thanks for having us again. I'm sure we'll see you again next fall.
And good evening, Superintendent Gorman, President Grant, and the rest of our board members. I have the opportunity to share with you some of the accomplishments from the spring for Union High School. This past spring, the varsity girls track 4x400 relay team of Mallory King, Anna Faber, Nicole Maddox, and Jayana Carter won the OK Black 4x4 relay championship, and they were awarded all conference honors for that. Mallory King, who was a member of that team, was awarded a full academic scholarship to Central Michigan University. So that's an awesome achievement. Her dad has been one of our booster parents. He's very proud right now. So Dante Santana was selected to the OK Black Baseball All-Conference First Team. The Union Varsity Girls Tennis Team was selected to the MHSAA Academic All-State Team. 10 teams are selected, and the Union High Varsity Tennis Team was ranked 5th out of the 10. So we're in that top 5 in the state academically for Division I tennis. And lastly, we had 2 all-conference girls soccer players, both Natalie Luna and Bella Nettie, were selected to the OK Black all-conference soccer team. So thank you again. Like Marcus said, we couldn't do it without the support of such a great board. So we really look forward to being back here in November and December to share with our fall athletes did.
Our young ladies are on the move.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any public comment for board agenda items?
We do not.
Okay. So next we have the secretary's report.
I'm happy to share that we don't have anything to share.
No news is good news.
No news.
Okay, for committee chair updates, we have Mr. Ross for the Finance Committee.
Yes, a relatively light report. Our last finance committee was on July 22nd. At that time, I guess one of the biggest highlights is Mr. Ober shared that the yearly audit was complete, but that he'll be bringing that to the board once we have the June financials added to that report. So we can probably expect to see that in one of the meetings in September as far as the audit is concerned. Other than that, just general information on the bonds. And I think we all know about the progress at Otto with the gym and the South House. Obviously, the Southwest Community Campus High School, and some security updates at a few schools around the district: Palmer, Riverside, Brookside, Aberdeen, Coit, Frost, and then, of course, some of the security updates here. As you can see, part of the renovation is bond dollars for some of those security updates to different buildings. And other than that, though, nothing with the warm, safe, and dry, and that's pretty much really all we had on the agenda at that July 22nd meeting.
Thank you. Next, we'll have an update on the Legislative Committee, but also, Dr. Baker, would you like to give an update from Academic Achievement Committee?
I'll be brief since I didn't have a chance to prepare like Mr. Ross did.
So we'll start with Ms. Shockey.
All right, good evening. Legislative committee meeting was light as well. Our House and Senate members are on recess and in district right now. So we instead discussed a recent proposal from the West Michigan Policy Forum on a potential road funding solution. The reason that's relevant is that it would impact school aid funds and MIPSers. So this proposal would, at a high level, allocate all of sales tax paid at the pump to road funding. That means we'd have to find some funding for the school aid fund, and they're proposing to sell bonds to infuse $10 billion into MIPSers, which would free up $980 million in the school aid fund that is currently allocated to paying those unfunded liabilities. So that bonding would extend for 30 years, and so that would be a 30-year bond extension, meaning that the payoff for the unfunded liabilities would extend 10 years beyond what is currently proposed. We have some concerns as the education system on this proposal. We don't like the payoff of 10 years longer, and the idea of using debt to pay down debt. It also would be subject to the volatility of the stock market. So right now it's just a proposal. It hasn't been introduced as a bill yet, so we're keeping our eyes on it, and I'll let you know if there's any updates on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Baker?
Yes, so the Academic Achievement Committee met on this past Thursday, August 1st. Had a great meeting, introduced our new person, Jonathan Harper, who will be leading the conversations around academic achievement, and then Superintendent Gorman was in attendance. We focused, you guys have heard this before, but we have been focusing the conversation for the last several months at least partially on the teacher evaluation system. We have learned a lot about the teacher evaluation system, the various methods that are approved by the state, the requirements of the state, the variances that we have experienced here in the district, qualifications of the people who do the evaluations, et cetera. So it's very extensive. I just looked online and I don't see these notes yet, but when these notes are available, I think it's very important that all board members and then anyone else that's interested are familiar with a fairly short 3 to 4 page summary of what has been happening with us, the teacher evaluation. We are also, the superintendent will be hiring a firm that will be doing an evaluation of the teacher evaluation system from the standpoint of the users of the evaluation, and that would mean administrators and teachers. It will include focus groups and a survey. That will be done later in the academic year, which will allow us some transparency about what the system looks like, as well as a chance to compare ourselves to a national norm, because these are tools that are used nationally, and we can see how people's responses to our evaluation system compares to teachers throughout the country, which will allow us to understand where we're at, but also tweak things if necessary. It was a great conversation. We also discussed the academic plan for the year, which I'm sure Superintendent Gorman will inform the rest of the board on, mostly just priorities around big things that are happening, such as Ottawa Hills, third grade reading. We will be doing a very extensive deep dive into the third grade reading law at our September Academic Achievement Committee meeting, where GRPS stands. We'll be learning about the efforts that were done this summer with the third graders in summer school, and so we'll have a really good sense of what we have to do this year to make sure that hopefully we end up with 100% students who are reading at the cut point for the grade level, and so can go on to fourth grade next year. So that's where we're at, but it was a great meeting and looking forward to future meetings.
Thank you. And we will be working on not our next work session, but the one following. We'll be working with Dr. Baker to put together more of a deep dive for the full board on the work that the Academic Achievement Committee is doing. Okay, so next we have Superintendent's report.
Madam President and members of the board, I'd like to ask John Helmholt to come forward to provide an update on back to school.
Thank you. Dr. Gorman, President Grant, members of the board. Dr. Gorman had asked me to provide several updates kind of as we gear up for the start of school. First, of course, is the first day of school, which is Tuesday, August 20th, for nearly all of our students. That would be all K through 12, as well as the Montessori families that are in Children's House, which is really the 3, 4, 5-year-olds. However, for those that are in Great Start Readiness, our preschool program, that start of school is August 27th. So we're really putting that information out there. The word's getting out. We're getting lots of calls. So the activity, it's August now, and I think everyone had the aha moment that school starts in less than 3 weeks. So the other part of that, of course, is how do we educate our families about registration? Right now, in order to register, a family needs a legal birth certificate, proof, and it must have an official government seal. It can't just be a photocopy. The proof of residence, they can use a utility bill, gas, water, electric, or a rent receipt. You cannot use a driver's license. That does not work, nor would a cell phone bill or insurance bill. Shot records for immunizations. We need the most up-to-date immunizations. The academic records for new students only. That would be transcripts and withdrawal grades. The report card for kindergarten through 8. And then, of course, the emergency contact information. This is something that we really rely on those parents to get that information. So we need the name, the address, and the working phone of 2 people who can be contacted and release the student to. In addition, we encourage our families. We are really trying to go paperless. So the online registration, we are shooting for 100% online. Of course, we will accommodate those families as needed. But if they go to family.grps.org, those individuals that already have a student or have already completed their online registration, they have a login. They're going to log in themselves, or they're going to create a new account. Next big thing is the orientation schedules. They were all published in our good We Are GR newspaper. Some of those have been subject to change, so we have updated on our grps.org website. Right under the top news stories is a list of all of our orientations, registrations, ice cream socials for each and every school. That is the most up-to-date list, so we're really encouraging families to go there. Second to last, school uniforms. We get a lot of questions about what is the requirement. With very few exceptions for those schools like Zoo and Blandford, where they're in the woods and streams quite a bit, we require school uniforms at all grade levels. At the K-8 level, you are looking at tops that are collared shirts, vests, and sweaters that are in light blue, white, black, red, or orange. The bottoms that are pants, shorts, dresses, and skirts. Denim, sweatpants, and leggings are not permitted. The colors are navy blue, black, or khaki. On our website at grps.org/uniforms, it has all of this information, including our preferred vendors. My wife and I just went through ordering Jack's uniform through Screen Ideas, a graduate of Creston High School. But you have Meyer, which has been a huge partner, and they stock their different shelves predominantly at the Alpine, Knapp, and Kalamazoo stores. So they have a list of all of our required uniform clothing. And then the high school uniform policy is a little bit different. We heard some feedback. I know Dr. Gorman helped lead that effort at one point. The uniforms are required Monday through Thursday. No uniforms are required on Friday, but students must still be wearing appropriate clothing that's in line with our student policy handbook. Additional options for tops include spirit wear, such as t-shirts, hoodies, and pullovers. Doesn't require a collar, but it must have the school name and or logo on it and must be in school colors. Additionally, the schools suggested modifications that were approved. City High Middle, additional options for pants and bottoms include gray and dark brown. Spirit wear from approved list in royal blue, black, or gray. Athletes may wear game day gear on game days only. Grand Rapids Learning Center is exempt from the policy due to location at Grand Rapids Community College. Innovation Central, spirit wear must be royal blue, orange, or white, or maroon, gray, or black for Montessori. Athletes may wear game day gear, same as above. JROTC is permitted to wear their uniforms. Ottawa Hills, spirit wear must be orange or black. Preferred students to wear orange, white, or black of all of the colors, but the student would still be considered in uniform if they were wearing a light blue or a dark blue or one of the other colors. JROTC is permitted to wear uniforms, and athletes may wear game day gear on the day of the game. Union High, very similar. Athletes may wear game day gear. JROTC is permitted to wear their uniform, and the spirit wear is in red, black, or white. And then UPrep will continue under the current policy. The last part was bell times. Our bell times are also published in the We Are GR newspaper, but again, the most up-to-date list is on our website at grps.org.
I just have a question. On our website, do we have examples of how appropriate attire looks like, meaning a model or a person wearing
We have
a skirt,
we have
pants, or whatever?
examples, not of like models wearing it. But we do have examples of the tops and the bottoms. There's like
Just
a little
wondering.
flyer that shows kind of what is a typical school uniform.
Great.
So if students would prefer not to wear uniforms, then we just direct them to Superintendent Gorman.
I think you can communications office if you.
Maybe one step before that.
grps.org.
That was the first question I heard.
Okay, thank
Anything
you,
else?
Mr. Himmel. We have a few action items for tonight. The first item is the purchasing agenda. Did anyone have any questions or discussion that they'd like to have around that? No? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the purchasing agenda?
So moved.
Support?
Reverend Matias?
Okay, Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Sharkey?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Grant.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have the resolution to appoint the Promise Zone Authority membership. Do we have any discussion or questions around that?
Yeah, I do have just a quick question, I guess. In I guess somewhat of a last-minute review, I know this has kind of been dragging on a bit, but I was a bit concerned that out of the folks we have recommended, we don't really have anyone that has any sort of a professional understanding of the nuances of college financing. And, and there's no knock on the folks that are there, but I'm just foreseeing some of the conversation that may occur, and we have some sort of, high-level professionals in their respective fields, but no one really the understanding of really what we're trying to accomplish with the Promise Zone, and that is individual college finance. And then I guess I just had some concerns and questions to see if I was the only one who had that concern.
Okay. We did have a little bit of a deeper dive at our last meeting. I know that you were unable to attend, but where we talked about the fact that the professionals that were at the table to help us build out the list for the board that's being presented to our board today. And one of the concerns about having an individual from higher ed at this table was that the conflict that it might present, because we're voting on issues of what higher ed institutions qualify for these funds, where do we spend these funds, and they would have to recuse themselves on several votes. And so we talked about the fact that those people may be able to serve on that committee that's under the board, because we want that expertise, but there is definitely, there would be strong conflict of interest at that table when we talk about where can these funds be directed, what institutions can they go to.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I guess I was, thinking about maybe one of the higher ed and City of Grand Rapids partnership is the Two College Through College initiative, and maybe the woman who has the day-to-day operations of that. I think that's sort of a neutral sort of perspective that does have the insight that we need. She's not employed by any higher ed institution. Obviously, there's some connection to the city with that work as well, and that just seems to be a sensible voice to have at the table.
Yes, so we definitely discussed, or I would say that that team that put that list together discussed Shayla, and she will definitely be extended an invitation to that committee because people do strongly believe in her expertise. There was some issue about where some conflicts of interest would still arise. Mr. Himho, I don't know if you would like, if I'm not answering this correctly.
Yeah, and so there's two potential conflicts. One is that one of the Promise Zone funding can be used to actually fund Two College Through College. And we anticipate that request coming before the Promise Zone Authority. And so there's a likelihood that a portion of the funds, in addition to paying for scholarships, could pay for a college readiness or a Two College Through College. That was number one. Number two, we're only allowed up to 3 government officials. And in a broader definition, technically she is an employee of the city of Grand Rapids and a kind of a joint employee of GRPS in the city of Grand Rapids. So we definitely gave consideration to that, strong champion for her, but thought that role may be best on this commission or this separate committee where you're gonna have higher ed, you're gonna have the other foundations, other philanthropic leaders, where they can still play a role in working with the Promise Zone Authority. They just wouldn't be a formal voting member of the board. So we've definitely given some thought to that. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Was there any flushing out of the term fluctuations? Has that been worked out?
Not yet. So the state law requires that for these first 11 appointments, we have to stagger them in 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, and 4-year terms. And so when the Promise Zone Authority Board has their first organizational meeting, not only will they vote to elect their officers, just like how you elect your officers, and that one unlucky person who becomes the chair of the committee, but then also that's when they'll determine what the scope of those terms are. And then after that, once that's appointed, the commission, or excuse me, the Promise-Zone Authority itself will then fill vacancies and make those appointments. So essentially, this is the superintendent's initial appointment list, but after that, it then defers to that that new board.
Yes, just a quick comment. I think that, I mean, I support the sentiments that Mr. Ross brings to it. Just getting very much involved in different kinds of efforts. There's a lot to know, and even people who see themselves as experts, even at universities, don't really know because students need money for food, so GRCC has snacks out. I mean, those are things that you have to take into account. But I trust, the one thing of the people I know on this list, which is most of them, I trust that that they're open to listening to the input of people who know this, and I also would encourage some of the kinds of people with expertise that you're talking about being on this the further advisory council. But I do trust that this group will be good at seeking out answers to how we most appropriately help students. And then I also expect to offer my opinion on a very regular basis. So.
Surprise.
So.
Does anyone have any other questions that we can answer for you or address? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution to appoint the Promise-Zone Authority membership?
So moved.
Support.
Reverend Matias?
Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shotke?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And we have a few first readings.
Yes.
Lewis?
The first one is for policy 8510, communicable diseases, if I can say the word right. This policy was revised to add a requirement to compliance with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services guidelines for the prevention, control, and containment of any communicable diseases in schools. So basically what this is just a revision to match up what the state says.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy 8510?
Motion to approve policy 8510, first reading.
Reverend Matias, when you're ready.
Okay. Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shotke?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have policy 9010.
Yes, this is the public information program. This policy was revised to remove language regarding public participation in board meetings, as that language is already contained in bylaw 1370. This policy was also revised to indicate that the superintendent shall use a variety of communication mediums, not just the newsletter, as is currently stated in the policy, to inform parents, students, staff, and members of the community about the achievements and the operation of the district.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy 9010?
So moved.
Support.
Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shotke?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have policy 9100.
Yes, this policy deals with public information. This policy was revised to remove language regarding regarding public participation in board meetings, as that language is already contained in bylaw 1370. Am I doing the right one? Okay. The policy was also revised to indicate that the superintendent shall use, this is the one I just did?
Yes.
Yes. We'll drop down to the next one. Okay. Board community relationships. The policy was revised to include language from policy 9001 regarding the board's desire to have satisfactory working relationships with all governmental, educational, and private agencies having an interest in the district. Revised language is all.
So what was the point of adding this?
The language already exists in 9001, and it regards the board's desire to have a working relationship with all government, educational, and private agencies.
So we're combining two policies?
Yep,
Oh, I see, I see.
changing language, yes, moving together, yes.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy 9100?
So moved.
Support.
Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shatki?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, we have a presentation of the first reading for an elimination of policy 8515.
Yes, this policy was as a result of moving the language regarding head lice to the rule for policy 8515. This policy is being recommended for elimination. The state has changed some of the language and the requirements as far as sending out notes, and if there's just one incident of head lice in a classroom, rather than alarm the entire classroom and maybe target a kid, we don't do that unless there's absolute necessary to do it. But if just one kid has it. Isn't that right, Ms. Pitts? Yes.
Okay.
Don't believe me, but just when she nods her head, you can believe that's true.
Are we taking out, are we eliminating a policy overall with head lice, or are we
I think we're
gonna change
adding
it?
a different language and down to 9001.
Okay.
So, good evening. So when we revised 8515, the communicable diseases policy, we picked that language up around head lice and put it in that policy so that when someone was looking at it, they'd have a comprehensive list of all the communicable types things. So the head lice policy was just a very small, simple sentence, so we just thought we would add that together. That's what happened.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the elimination of policy 8515?
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shatki?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, then we have one more first reading for the elimination of policy 9001.
Yes, this is again about school and community relations. This policy is being recommended for elimination as it is almost a duplicate of 9100. We recommend that we retain policy 9100, the portion of this policy that is not contained in 9100 regarding external governmental, educational, and private agencies has already been included in that policy.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the elimination of policy 9001?
So moved.
Support. We're just all so excited about this.
Can't imagine why not.
Fun work.
Yes. Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Reverend Matias, yes. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shatki?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
President Grant,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda grouping?
So moved?
Support.
Okay. Dr. Flores is excused. We did have a motion to vote, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Do you have it down? Who?
Yeah.
Mr. Ross with support.
Yep. And Lewis. So Dr. Flores is excused. Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Matias, yes. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Shatke?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
President Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries.
For our discussion item today, you all have a binder in front of you. That binder includes the responses from the RFP that was put out for search firms for the superintendent search. So these bids were due by Monday, July 8th, 2 p.m., and we received a total of 7 responses, 7 packages. So you have all those packages in your binder. I am asking that you review this package. You'll see the 7 firms that are in there. I'm asking that you review each package. In that binder, you have also received a rubric to help us kind of flesh out what points stand out from each firm and be able to score them. The scores do not necessarily mean that we'll tally up everyone's score and the people with the highest marks are people that we want to speak with. It's really a way for us to lay everything out, and Ms. Pitts made the rubric based on exactly what was in our RFP. So it's a good way to score how these separate firms measure up. In our next work session, next Monday, we'll take some time to review these things and just have further discussion about the full process. But the last time that we had discussion about this, you guys did make it clear that you wanted me to move forward with the RFP process and receive responses. So that is what we have done. And on Monday, it would be great for everyone to come with notes and feedback and larger thoughts about the process in itself. So I look forward to that discussion.
What time will that meeting be? 5:30? Yeah.
It's a work session, so it would be 4:30.
4:30.
Does anyone have immediate comments? Or?
Just a quick question. The other 35 points, I see the rubric score as a potential of 65, and the other 35 points, I'm just trying to ascertain where the other 35 points might come from.
Each area allots to a certain amount of points, so there's one area that allots to 35 on its own. Correct, Ms. Pitts?
So there are 35 points, so 65 points will go right on the proposal. Part of the RFP gave an opportunity for the board members to interview candidates or vendors, which I assumed you all would want to do before you made a final selection. So the interview would be 25 points, and then, of course, we still have to check references, and those would be 10. So once you all decide, maybe the top 2, 3, or whatever that you really want to delve deeper into.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question as to how us moving forward with looking at these bids obligate us to move forward with the search. Can you flesh that out for me a little bit?
Yes, I do think that's something we can dive into deeper on Monday during the work session. But we aren't obligated, just taking a bid, we're not obligated at all to work with the firm. But we do want to talk about the larger process and what that looks like, what that means. Any other comments, questions? Okay, well, I look forward to that discussion on Monday. Do we have public comment for non-agenda items?
We do.
Mr. Allen?
Hi, Mr. Allen. If you can just state who you are, and you'll have 3 minutes to present.
My name is Bill Allen. Thank you, Reverend Matias, Superintendent Gorman, board members, and distinguished guests. My sole purpose for being here is to ensure that my children and all of the children at their school have no further exposure to asbestos at North Park Montessori. We are not satisfied with the asbestos cleanup. We want the carpets replaced for two very important reasons. One, in a letter sent to all the parents by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services on June 24, the EPA clearly states it is not recommended to rely on HEPA vacuuming for carpets and pads since porous surfaces can never be fully cleared of asbestos, end quote. Number two, the Grand Rapids Public School response to this is based on immediate exposure rather than long-term exposure. Quote, HEPA vacuuming followed by clearance testing through aggressive air sampling will clear a room for any concerns of immediate exposure to asbestos, end quote. My concern as a parent is that these children are Montessori students and spend about 90% of their school day sitting on the carpet, laying on the carpet, touching it with their hands, and potentially disturbing the asbestos. Disturbing the asbestos now puts it into the air as well as putting it on their hands where it can now be ingested as well as inhaled. This would not be considered an immediate exposure to asbestos, but would be considered long-term exposure since the students will be exposed to it every day of the school year. GRPS's response is based on immediate exposure, once again, not long-term exposure. In other words, walking into a room and breathing the air immediately after it has been cleaned, tested, and cleared. GPRS has stated that all the safeguards have been met per guidelines. This is a loophole that GPRS is using, with or without the board's knowledge, that does not protect our children. You have told us that you have the best welfare of our children in mind. So why are you not willing to take the extra step in replacing this nearly 8-year-old carpet where these kids are going to sit, play, and interact every day where there is a known level of asbestos? My father-in-law died from asbestos exposure. We know that our children have already been exposed to asbestos at North Park Montessori. Why are we now willing to put them again in harm's way by knowingly exposing them any further to any amount of asbestos? Is the cost of replacing the carpet worth more than the life of any one of these children developing mesothelioma in the future? These actions are unacceptable and unexcusable.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you. We don't.
Superintendent's comments.
No comment.
Dr. Baker?
No comment.
Ms. Davis?
No comment.
Mr. Ross?
No comment.
Ms. Shockey?
No comment.
Reverend Matias?
Couple weeks, school's gonna start. Parents are excited. I'm excited because my kids are out of school, but really looking forward to a tremendous year with our teachers and our students, and just having a great year. So,
Mrs. Williams? No comment. Ms. Lewis?
I was very pleased to read about the work that's being done to make our entryways to the schools more safe for the kids and the parents and people visiting the schools. And in light of the things that have just happened in the last couple of days, it's made me again realize our responsibility of keeping these kids safe and having them feel comfortable in their environments. And I think, making sure that strangers aren't going to be allowed to wander our buildings. I'm very grateful for the decisions that were made to improve the safety at schools.
Thank you. No comment from me. Meeting adjourned.